Welcome to HICGI News Agency. This is HICGI News Agency. HICGI News Agency. This is HICGI News Agency. This is HICGI News Agency Live.
This is HICGI News Agency Live. Welcome to HICGI News Agency. Welcome to HICGI News Agency Live. HICGI News Agency. We are live. HICGI News Agency. This is HICGI News Agency. Thank you for watching.
HICGI News Agency, HICGI News Agency, HICGI News Agency. This is HICGI News Agency. Welcome to the Senior Citizens Talk of HICGI News Agency. My name is Kivumbi, Earnest Benjamin, your usual host. Welcome our viewers from Beijing in China, those in Tokyo, Japan, even those in Greenland, and back here in Kampala, Uganda. But of course we have an incredible team just down there in South Africa. And South Africa, we are joined by an incredible, a very fascinating lady who is in the Department of Science and Technology as well as Innovation, Madam Tinyiko Ntshongwana. I don't know if I'll spell the name, pronounce it very well.
Ntshongwana.
Well, she is a Deputy Director of Africa Multilateral Corporation in the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation in the Government of South Africa. Madam Tinyiko, you are most welcome.
Thank you very much for having me.
How is South Africa?
South Africa is great. Yes.
And which place in South Africa are you coming from?
I am currently based in Pretoria.
Okay.
So that's where our ministry is located.
What is the mandate of the ministry?
So the mandate of our ministry is to basically develop our national system of innovation and to really position science, technology and innovation as a driver of our economic development.
Okay.
So I would say that's probably the broadest mandate that we have.
Okay. And what are some of your achievements as a ministry since you joined or even before you joined?
Okay, so I would have to say that one of the defining factors about our ministry is that I think we have a really strong global footprint.
Okay.
And I think we've really positioned ourselves, particularly within the African context, to kind of define what science diplomacy actually is and to make it work for ourselves, but also to make it work for the continent. And I think what this has done is that it has really enabled us to ensure that our national system of innovation is quite robust. It has given us the opportunity to expand our science system beyond South Africa and to also ensure that we are part of global scientific excellence.
Wow.
So I would really say that one of our biggest achievements is this global footprint that we've developed that has also given us an opportunity to partner with global institutions here within the African continent, but also outside of the continent, as well as other countries. And I really do think that this has enabled us to build a strong science system.
Okay. South Africa is a very strong pillar of the Africa's economy. I think second to Nigeria, contribution of science to economic development of South Africa.
So I think that science has made a huge contribution in terms of our economic development, particularly because of the investments that have been made in research and development in South Africa. And I think it has really positioned us to build certain industries and to contribute to certain industries, like for instance the agricultural industry, the mining sector, where currently we're also looking at modernizing the mining sector and also modernizing the agricultural sector through science, technology and innovation. And so what we're also currently looking at is how can we actually pin it down to the person on the street to ensure that um, we see more jobs and more opportunities being provided for people that are unemployed through science, technology, and innovation, so that we are being more systematic in addressing issues of poverty and especially generational poverty. So that's something that we're currently working towards, to really take science to the person on the streets, to make it something that is tangible for them, to the extent that we're able to even start providing jobs. And that goes back to the contributions that we are making in making some of our traditional industries more competitive and positioning them under the current context to actually start achieving more than what they were doing before.
Okay, so your traditional industries are in which areas?
Okay, so I think we've developed some really strong capabilities in terms of mining.
Okay.
So I think that's one of South Africa's competitive advantages, as well as the agricultural sector. We're really great at agro processing.
Okay.
I think another industry where we've really thrived is the bioeconomy. So we've taken very systemic, or rather systematic steps in making sure that we build biotechnology as an industry and as an economy, and to actually feed into other areas, including the health sector and also the agricultural sector. And bioeconomy is one of the technologies that is really growing at the moment. I think another industry where we are really thriving, especially where there's a strong science, technology, and innovation interface, is also the space industry, so space
Okay.
science. And I think a lot of people, or maybe our counterparts in the continent, some might not know the capabilities that we have as South Africa in the space sector, but we've really, it's a fledgling industry, but at the same time, we actually have a very long history of space science in South
Okay.
Africa that dates back even to before democracy. And so we're doing a lot in terms of also manufacturing satellite components and also manufacturing satellites that we export to different small satellites that we export to different parts of the world.
The power of memories has never been so meaningful than when time passes by. It's only in photography and videography that we can be able to tell what exactly happened in our lives. Do not lose the beautiful events of your life, from graduation to birthday parties, introduction ceremonies, parties that matter, wedding. All this and much more can be brought down into memories of photography and videography. At KEB International Group, we understand what it means to keep these memories. We are inviting you today to contact us for the best rates in town for your photography and videography events. Plus 256 702 13 75 66 or plus 256 773 1375 66. We will cover and reach you at any time, any part of the world. No matter the time, we are here to keep your memories alive. Okay, videography and photography, your number one events memories.
And obviously, I think something that you might be aware of as well is within the field of astronomy. So we've taken very active steps from a research and development perspective in really investing in astronomy. And that's why we're basically, as South Africa, hosting the Square Kilometer Array, which is based in the Northern Cape province of South Africa. And this was not an opportunity that we identified only for ourselves, but we brought other African countries on board to participate in the hosting of the Square Kilometer Array, because something that we really place right at the center of our development of South Africa is the Pan-African agenda. So in opportunities where we feel that we are strong, we try and bring our partners from the rest of the continent together to also benefit.
Okay, when you talk about astronomy, I'm so eager to know and inquisitive because this is a very rare capability where few countries actually investing into that and how the technology so how you build rockets also apart from satellites, you taking some people into space or outer deeper space. Yeah, I'm inquisitive to know.
Well, astronomy, I think one of the spin-offs of astronomy and developing capabilities around that sector and that discipline, which we're now looking into.
Global Logistics Limited, your number one customs clearing and forwarding cargo consolidation warehouse company. We do air shipment, worldwide sea shipment, transportation, tax consultation. Lovi Logistics Limited is a competent company specializing in logistics clearing and forwarding services. We have the necessary skills and resources and partnerships to tackle sizable projects to our clients' satisfaction. We are located at Mganzaraza Plaza near the entrance of Katwe, Kampala, Uganda. Call us on plus 256 779 634 328 or plus 256 701 784 648 or visit our website glovylogistics.com or write to johnglovy@gmail.com. Glovy Logistics Limited, your number one clearing and forwarding company.
Welcome from the short commercial break. We're still on the Senior Citizens Talk of HICGI News Agency, and we are with the Deputy Director of Africa Multilateral Corporation, Madame Tinyiko Ntshongwana. Are you still saying something, Madame?
So I think we were speaking about the Square Kilometer Array. So I was just mentioning the fact that one of the capabilities that has emerged from the Square Kilometer Array is being able to get big data. So right now we are working on building capacities amongst some of our youth to be able to basically analyze that data and to hopefully transform it into information that we can actually use for various purposes. And something else that I think is quite important in that regard is just with regards to artificial intelligence and issues pertaining to data. So it's quite interesting that the capabilities developed around astronomy are now starting to assist us within the field of artificial intelligence, just from a big data perspective. And I guess this is the value of investing in science and also investing in research and development.
When you talk about investing into research and development, uh, that explains probably there's been a will to invest into science and technology. Uh, you think the government has prioritized so much science and technology with a special funding uh, as a way of promoting it?
Definitely. So I think this is an excellent commitment that has been made by the South African government to actually make substantial and significant investments in science, technology, and innovation, because I think if a country really wants to achieve economic sufficiency and economic self-sufficiency, especially in this day and age, with the current dynamics that we see globally, investments in science, technology, and innovation are actually paramount because they enable you to build a strong health system. They enable you, those investments in science, technology, and innovation are what can also enable you to create food security, to be able to combat climate change. And we know that as African countries, we are the hardest hit by climate change. And we're now looking for solutions. And we wouldn't look so much outside if we could actually make the investments in science, technology, and innovation. So I think that the investments that have been made by the South African government have enabled us to achieve some sort of semblance of economic self-sufficiency. I still think that there's definitely room to grow in growing our economy and in basically increasing our GDP. And that does call for even more investments than what we've made in the past, particularly in the area of research and development, because that's where you are able to identify new solutions, new technologies, and potentially even disruptive technologies that you can build entire industries around, even for export purposes. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, absolutely. You've been attending the Africa Technology, Science and Innovation Forum. And what's been your contribution and your participation in South Africa in this forum?
So it's always a pleasure for South Africa to participate in the Africa Regional STI Forum, which is hosted by UNECA annually. We are really privileged as a country to be part of the organizing partners, and we really value our partnership with the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. One of the roles that we played in some of the sessions that have been held during this forum is to speak about science diplomacy, because as I mentioned earlier on, I think that's an area as South Africa where we've really managed to kind of build a name for ourselves. And so what we've also noticed through the interventions that we've made during this forum about science diplomacy is that there is a great interest amongst African countries in not just understanding science diplomacy, but really taking it to the next level by ensuring that it actually works for them, especially from an economic perspective. And so something that I think was really progressive during the forum this year is that we were starting to make links between science diplomacy and economic development, between science diplomacy and issues of trade, between science diplomacy and commercialization. Because I think conversations around science diplomacy tend to be about research. But at this particular forum, we really tried to take it to the next level by pinning it down from an economic perspective to say how can we actually use science diplomacy not just for technology transfer, but to position ourselves to be the ones that produce technologies, commercialize, export, and also access markets to create jobs.
The term science diplomacy may be a huge word to a layman, or maybe there could be some students watching this show. Could you try to break down for us what science diplomacy is?
Well, science diplomacy is an interesting term. It's been around, I think, for the past maybe, let's say, 12 to 15 years.
Okay.
Um, so it's also a little bit of a new term to a certain extent.
Okay.
And I think where it comes from is the value of how science actually brings countries together around the table, and how science actually creates solidarity amongst countries. So where it emerged from was from instances where politically countries were not really relating very well. But because of science cooperation, countries could actually start working together and start really to make excellent gains from a scientific perspective. So that's kind of where science diplomacy emerges from. And I think for young people, particularly those that are based at universities, especially those who are in the sciences, science diplomacy really presents an opportunity to actually say, how can
Welcome to Princess Branding Services. Do you have a party, introduction, or you have lost a loved one and you intend to do burial branding? At Princess Branding Services, they do branding for baby shower, political rallies, and all kinds of celebrations and functions. Contact us for great and friendly, affordable prices. We will brand your t-shirts, capes, bottles, umbrellas, photos, bags, frames, and much more. Contact us on the number on your screen. Plus 256 783 20 95 79 or plus 256 744 580326. Email princessbranding256@gmail.com.
those, for our young people that are based at universities, particularly those who are in the disciplines around science, what science diplomacy does is that it enables them to bridge the gap between just focusing on science theoretically to actually also looking at the application of science from a policy perspective. And what's really exciting about science diplomacy is that it enables scientists, so any person aspiring to be a scientist, to also make a global contribution and to make a contribution for their country at a global stage by being able to use the evidence from science to influence policy and to influence decision making so that decision making is actually evidence based. So that's the one aspect about science in diplomacy. Then we also speak about diplomacy in science and how politicians, how policymakers, how technocrats and bureaucrats can basically use science to negotiate around certain positions, whether we're speaking at a COP level or we're speaking at from the level of a global forum where certain decisions need to be made. So the policymakers, the diplomats, the technocrats, the people who are based, the decision makers in government can then employ science in order to inform their decisions so that the decisions are robust and they are actually based on factual and scientific information.
And when you talk about diplomacy and information within this science, we have seen uh, Russia, as much as it is not so much diplomatically attached to United States, but in space, we've seen Russian astronomers, astronauts and scientists working together at the space station. And I was also attending a few years ago a convention in New Delhi, India, and I saw uh, scientists, doctors from Iran, Russia, United States, and they were discussing freely. And I remember that politically these countries sometimes are very, very reserved to each other. Do you think science, in your opinion, it can be a bridge to uniting countries together that may be having differences on common ground?
Certainly, and I think that's where the concept of science diplomacy actually emerged from.
For more than 10 years, Kevin International Group has been your number one partner in tours and travel consultancy. We also do real estate, legal services, ICT services, and much more. Find us on kebinternationalgroup.com or write to us at info@kebinternationalgroup.com. You may also write to us at PO Box 35827 Kampala, Uganda, or visit us on Namaswahi off Entebbe Highway. Call us on +256 200937566 or +256 3948632 or 46, or you can send us a plus on WhatsApp on +256 752 1375 66. Cab International Group, your number one rail business partner.
Like that, even though countries might not necessarily agree on certain issues at a political level, but when it comes to developing scientific capabilities, countries certainly recognize the value of actually collaborating and placing the political differences aside. And I think what science diplomacy does is that it enables countries to collaborate beyond just the policy and political level, where scientists that are based at universities can actually, in different countries and countries that might be disagreeing on certain issues politically, it opens up room for the scientists, for the researchers to actually collaborate, to find solutions to common problems and mutual challenges that they might have.
As we prepare to wind up our show, science has been significantly changing our lives day to day. And as much as it is impacting us positively, there are also plates that science is posing to humanity. What are those risks that you see science may lead us to?
It's an interesting question. Um, and I guess it's a multi-pronged question. And it's definitely a valid concern. And if you also look at current conversations around artificial intelligence, which is really an excellent capability that we've built up, one of the key concerns is just the ethics around artificial intelligence. And then also from an African perspective, how certain capabilities, Africa kind of lagging behind in those capabilities. So certainly there are concerns around the negative impacts of technology. But I think we actually maybe need to shift the mindset and not necessarily, yes, we must focus on the risks, but I think the mindset shift should rather look at how do we develop capabilities of being able to anticipate the impact of technology, and how do we develop capabilities to anticipate not just the impact of technology, but also the risks, the future risks and the future shocks that we might see as a result of fast-paced technological developments that we see currently. So I think that's what the focus should actually be, developing the foresight and developing the ability to anticipate what is coming. And I think countries, for instance, that are leading in artificial intelligence, they started developing those capabilities back in the 70s, some of them back in the 80s. Already they saw what was going to happen in terms of artificial intelligence. Um, And that's why they are leading in that field, and they've been able to have the first mover advantage. And I think this is something that Africa really needs to think actively about. How do we anticipate what is coming? How do we develop the foresight to anticipate what will come as a result of technological development? And also, as we anticipate and we develop the foresight of being able to see what might happen in the future, how do we then position ourselves to ensure that we can capitalize on it economically, we can create a regulatory and policy environment which is conducive for us to thrive as a result of the technological developments, as opposed to being on the back foot and being impacted by it negatively.
This may sound.
Welcome. My name is Omuka Francis from JAHL Productions Uganda Limited, the makers of the iced espresso, ready to drink coffee. This is purely a Ugandan coffee, starting from the seeds to the packaging to the production, all Ugandan product. Well, at the moment we have it in two. One that is sweet having sugar in it, cane sugar. That's why we call it the sweet original. The second is the original without sugar. This coffee has no additives, no preservatives, and has a shelf life of up to 18 months. We pack it in cartons of 12, having 12 sachets inside the box. The same for the sweet one, the 12 inside the box. So our coffee is purely Ugandan. Serving it, you can have it both cold or hot. You can have your coffee the way you want it. For this time, let me make a demo of the hot coffee. I'll take the sweet original, pour it in a cup. It's purely coffee and expressed coffee. Add hot water. And there you go. Your coffee is ready for serving. This coffee can be got at any of the supermarkets around the Mega. We have it at Platia, that's at Kololo. We also have it at Legume, that's after the American Embassy in Zambia. You can get our coffee there. It's purely Ugandan product. It's ready to drink, no additives, no preservatives, and it has a shelf life of up to 18 months. You can get it both in the one with sweet, that is the sweet, and the original, having sugar, no sugar. So meaning you all got the coffee you need. We have a sales number. In case you want to get in touch with us, call this number 0766 530 248. We'll be able to receive your calls. It's both on WhatsApp. We shall be able to serve you. Thank you so much.
Ridiculous, but I hope you can contain science and religion of values. We've seen some technological innovations sometimes promoting decadence and immorality. A case of people sleeping with artificial human beings, and where could we go astray and what are the limitations in our innovations? Or do you support that?
Okay, so I think what the question is really pointing to some of the ethical dynamics that emerge as a result of technological innovation and technological development.
Sleeping with robots.
Look, I think I'm not sure how to answer that question, but I really think it's a fine line, you know, in also developing regulations,
Okay.
robust regulations around the uses of technology, what it can be used for. So I think maybe that's where the gap is. It's with regards to the regulatory aspects, because sometimes when your regulations are too stringent, there are certain benefits that you could derive from technology, societal benefits, whether it's in the health sector, being able to produce innovations in the health sector that could actually save people's lives, or any other sector for that matter. And when the regulations are agile, you can make quick decisions that can respond to problems that we have today right now. But on the other hand, when regulations are also weak or non-existent, it can also mean that ethical considerations start to emerge, where technology starts being used in ways that are not beneficial for society, or in ways that actually call into question some of the acceptable societal norms and values. And I think it's a bit of a fine line. And you might recall during COVID, countries had to ease up on in fact, overnight, countries had to change certain regulations that were in place.
Like which ones?
In order to the lockdowns, for instance, regulations needed to, or maybe not the lockdowns, but just in terms of being able to track and monitor the outbreak. So technology was used in that instance to do that, to track where certain places or regions where there was a big outbreak of the virus.
True.
So certain regulations had to be eased up in order to contain the virus. So I guess the point that I'm making is that, to answer your question, I think there's a very fine line, and it has to do with regulations.
Is there anything final that you would love to share on our show tonight as we finish?
Global Logistics Limited, your number one customs clearing and forwarding cargo consolidation warehouse company. We do air shipment, worldwide sea shipment, transportation, tax consultation. Lovey Logistics Limited is a competent company specializing in logistics clearing and forwarding services. We have the necessary skills and resources and partnerships to tackle sizable projects to our clients' satisfaction. We are located at Mganziraza Plaza near the entrance of Katwe, Kampala, Uganda. Call us on +256 779 634 328 or +256 701 784 648, or visit our website glovylogistics.com or write to johnglovy@gmail.com. Glovy Logistics Limited, your number one clearing and forwarding company.
So parting shots, I would really have to just say that it's been a pleasure for South Africa, the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, to participate in this 7th Africa Regional STI Forum. And thank you very much as well for the interview that we've had with you. It's been very fascinating. And I also just want to mention that South Africa this year will be hosting the G20. So we're currently the president of the G20, and we've actually got a science, technology and innovation track, and we'll be hosting various meetings with G20 stakeholders, as well as other stakeholders in the continent that we've identified, to discuss various issues pertaining to science, technology, and innovation within the G20 context. And so we're really looking forward to hosting our partners from the G20 and also some of our other African partners during our engagements in the month of May. We'll be having a research and innovation working group where we will be discussing some of the aspects that we'd like to introduce as part of our G20 presidency. And as always, the African agenda, because it's something as a country that we are extremely passionate about, that will form part and parcel of our presidency. Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure to have you, Madam Tinyiko Ntshongwana, on the Senior Citizens Talk of HICI Agency. I must say it's been a powerful discussion that we've had with you. Interesting thing for us to learn and also to appreciate what South Africa say hi to the president when you go back and the rest of team there in that rainbow beautiful nation. Maybe we could also join you in the G20 summit. Until next time, my name is Kivumbi. Earnest Benjamin. Subscribe to our shows on our social media. You can just say HICI News Agency. On the camera has been Faith Barbara Rohinda.
The Senior Citizens Talk is brought to you by Africa at Heart, Heal the Planet Global Organization, HICI News Agency. Subscribe right now to get our latest updates sent on every single Sunday. Don't forget also the Talk to the World show that is running every Thursday at 4 p.m. Subscribe here on YouTube and make your notification bell right here. HICI News Agency. Visit us on HICINewsagency.com and find us on all social media platforms, on X, call it Twitter, on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. HICI News Agency. Subscribe now.